At this point, inner beauty is the only argument Apple may have to market its new M2 MacBook Pro, but does it make it any better than its predecessor? In this review of the M1 MacBook Pro versus M2 MacBook Pro, let's find out what has improved. Processor. The internal components of the MacBook Pro M1 and M2 are where the true distinction lies between the two models. The 13-inch MacBook Pro, which received its most recent update in the year 2020, is now equipped with an improved M2 processor in place of the older generation M1 processor. When compared to chips with 8-core graphics and up to 16 GB of memory, the M2 processor offers several improvements, the most notable of which is up to 24 GB of unified memory and 10-core graphics. The bandwidth of unified memory is now 100 gigabits per second, which is approximately 50% more than the M1. The more recent MacBook Pro may be more appealing because of its more graphics cores and its capacity to accept up to 24 GB of memory, but the M2 brings more to the table than just those features. The M2 offers enhanced performance in addition to increased efficiency, resulting in a speedier CPU and a more formidable GPU. As a result of advancements made to the chip's architecture, the M2 also features a neural engine that is 40% faster and a processing speed that is 18% faster. But does it have enough power to allow you maximize all of these awesome performance perks? More on that in a bit. Graphics. To improve the M2's graphic capabilities, Apple has increased the number of cores contained within its GPU. This chip has a 10-core integrated GPU, which is significantly more powerful than the M1's 8-core graphics processor. In general, the new graphics processing unit, GPU, in the M2 is approximately 35% better than the graphics processor in the M1. This is probably the result of the more GPU cores, in addition to the other improvements. Additionally, the media engine in the 13-inch MacBook Pro now supports ProRes encoding as well as decoding. Apple claims that this will enable it to play back up to 11 streams of 4K video or up to 2 streams of 8K ProRes video. The incorporation of Apple's more powerful media engine into the M2, which was absent in the M1, also enables it to perform some activities, such as video editing, noticeably more quickly. Design. When it comes to the design of the computer's body, the two versions of the MacBook Pro are virtually interchangeable. They are identical in terms of their overall measurements and weight. I mean, they both still have the touch bar, although that is not something that has won a lot of favor in the court of public opinion. Macworld.com indicates that it seems unlikely that the touch bar will survive another update, something the majority of consumers and reviews more than agree with. Maybe that's why its price has become one of this model's leveraging grounds. We will get to that in a moment. Now, because you care about making careful decisions on your purchase and updating yourself on the latest trends on your favorite devices, we've committed to this channel to achieve exactly that. Subscribe now for exclusive access to content that matters to you. Display and camera. Apple has undoubtedly made some advancements in display technology, although not as much recently, especially in this model. Both models retain the resolution of 2560 by 1600 pixels, a brightness of 500 nits, a wide color, P3, and True Tone technology, which makes the screen easier on your eyes by adjusting the colors and brightness according to the light in the room. Despite this, the upgraded image signal processor, ISP, contained within the M2 chip has the potential to still result in somewhat improved video call performance. According to Apple, the ISP can automatically optimize exposure levels, white balance, and noise reduction. Also, since the release of the 13-inch MacBook Pro, Apple has not made any changes to the display size, save for the M2 being actually a little bit larger than 13 inches, measuring 13.3 inches diagonally. Some M2 MacBook Pro reviews indicate that it is now the smallest laptop that Apple sells after the screen on the M2 MacBook Air was increased to 13.6 inches. Ports and connectivity. The M2 13-inch MacBook Pro continues to offer only 2 Thunderbolt and USB 4 ports, the same number as its predecessor. However, these ports facilitate a variety of activities, including the transfer of data at speeds of up to 40 gigabits per second when making transfers from DisplayPort to Thunderbolt. Both of these models come equipped with a headphone jack, although only the more recent model has support for headphones with a high impedance. The only other difference is that the power adapter that comes with the M2 MacBook Pro is 67 watts, whereas the power adapter that came standard with the earlier model was 61 watts. Although in theory, this could increase the rate of charging, in practice it is unlikely to make a significant difference because the M2 MacBook Pro does not allow fast charging. Battery life. The battery life, which clocks in at 20 hours, is the same as that of the M1 model, although the M2 processor has been updated to be more power efficient, which reviewers had hoped would result in improvements to the battery life. It appears that the M2 consumes more power than the M1. One difference here, though, is how some M2 MacBook Pro reviews have indicated that the M2 maxed out at 16 hours, whereas the M1 made it up to 18 hours during various battery tests. Price. The prices for both models are the same, although they may differ in certain countries and stores slightly. Both the M1 and M2 start at $1,299 and go for $1,499 for the 512 GB model. When compared to the M1 MacBook Pro, purchasing an M2 MacBook Pro offers several distinct benefits, the most notable of which is an increase in M2 MacBook Pro performance that helps narrow the price gap between it and the more expensive MacBook Pros. But what if we pit the powerful M2 chip against the M1 Pro? Would it still be worth your while? Find out in this video we made on the M2 chip versus M1 Pro chip. M2 breakdown performance you really should know about. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.